Hi guys, RC Murphy here for another podcast thingy. I think this is number 3. Who knows? I've lost count, especially after spending 10 days of last month on vacation. I'm pretty sure my brain is still technically in March, which is a little concerning considering I need to write and finish a new novella in the next couple of months. Yay! Anyways, today's podcast isn't about any of that, not about work, not about vacation, which was lovely. Thank you very much. For Southern California. I can't spoke either. Thank you very much, Southern California, for having amazing weather and then pissing down rain on us from the Grapevine to beyond Bakersfield. I think it finally stopped raining around Tulare, coming north from Los Angeles. But, the entire week was fine. No rain, no anything, unless you want to count the tears falling from my child's eye every time he had a breakdown because we were making him walk. And we were suddenly the cruelest people on earth. Alright, this week's podcast is, actually a subject I found a few weeks ago and made a note of. Someone had hit my blog looking up the search term, how to date a writer. And my first thought was, don't. Save yourself the trouble and just don't. Creative people in general are just really strange. And unless you are a fellow creative soul, you really don't understand some of the quirks that happen while we're working. Number one, this writing gig in particular, is not glamorous. I work every day from approximately 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. in my pajamas. I do actually get dressed to go get my kid from school and stuff. I'm not a complete slob. But other than that, it's all day, every day in various pajamas that make me look like I'm 12 years old. Because it makes me happy, and often what I'm writing is not happy. If you've read either of my books that are out, they have happy moments, but overall, there's some pretty bad parts, so I need something to make me feel better. I do know there are writers like Laurel Hamilton who professes, professionalism, and says she won't write in anything more relaxed than t-shirt and jeans. I applaud her and others who take this stance. Unfortunately, I have sciatica, and wearing jeans for the 8 to 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours if I'm editing, that I'm at a computer isn't feasible. It's really uncomfortable, and it makes it so I can't sit and work like I need to. But, and then when authors do dress up, it's a little weird. When I do conventions and stuff to work with Zombie Survival Crew, or even just as myself on the few times that I go and do the author thing at festivals and stuff, it's a little odd, and it takes some getting used to. I've been called a oversized goth Barbie doll a few times by my own family. And then, you have people like Sherilyn Kenyon, who's been seen wearing a swan on her head as a hat for some of her appearances. We're weird. Writers are weird, and we do strange things to get attention when we're trying to pimp ourselves, or sometimes that's just our style. Like, I love wearing corsets and stuff. I don't wear them in my everyday life. I could not work wearing a steel bone corset for, 10 hours a day. But when I go out, I want to look nice, so I'll strap myself into the corset, put on the tightest pants I can find, or a short skirt, and out the door I go to do whatever gig I'm at, and it's a drastic change from what people are used to seeing me in, which is, jeans and a t-shirt. And there are some people, men and women alike, who, when they're dating a creative person, they get kind of possessive over them, and they can't understand our need to express ourselves in our clothing. I came across this problem a few times with some of the people I've dated, and I just kind of gave up giving a damn about what they thought. As long as I felt comfortable and I was, covered, it wasn't like I was showing off my hoo-ha to everyone. My skirts were, decent length, mid-thigh, the shortest, and I have a lot of thigh, so I mean, come on, they seem shorter than they really are. I'm not showing off my underwear or anything. I have some class, thank you very much. But dealing with some of our quirks, especially with wardrobe when we do dress up, is kind of hard for some people to let go of that possessive nature. Another fault with writers is we feel things differently and we absorb the world a little differently. A lot of the times, I am fully comfortable sitting in a crowded place and just people watching. I don't need to talk. I don't even need to take notes. I just watch how people interact with each other. It's research for me. It's an old habit I picked up from when I was a theater major. And a lot of my teachers were really hard on, we didn't have enough life experiences, freshmen in college to understand what it meant to fill roles that had, like, older people and how they moved and stuff like that. So, they'd assign us to people watch and we'd have to take notes on it and turn that in, or, act out several people that we watched in a day or a weekend. So it's a habit, and I pick up a lot of strange quirks for my characters this way. And it kind of freaks people out that I don't need to talk all the time, even though when I do talk, I talk a lot, but that's only if you really get to know me. Another habit I have is just it seems like I'm staring off into space, but I'm thinking a lot, intensely. A lot of my best work days are spent staring at the wall behind my computer, kind of blank-faced, but it's not blank in my head. I can't really explain it. The other writers are all nodding their heads like, oh my god, she gets it. But I forgot where that choo-choo train of thought was going. But sometimes our significant others just don't understand our necessity for silence. My last relationship kind of imploded because of this, where I would be trying to work on something meaningful. Meanwhile, in the background, I have whatever video game they're playing going on, and it's really distracting. And they don't understand how distracting it is for noise that we're not responsible for, like the clacking of keyboard keys or even the music that we've chosen to listen to. We decided to listen to, and even with headphones on, you still know the noise is there, or you can see the TV flickering, or just something is an outside force pulling your attention away. And that's not good. And I didn't have the means at the time to make my own office like I do now, because I don't have anyone sharing a room with me. I've dedicated a corner of my room to my office where I can sit by myself and I can dictate what noises I hear aside from what bleeds over from the neighbors or what bleeds over from the living room while my nephew or my mom are in there. But even then, I can control it better because I can't see what's making the noise, so I can put on headphones and drown it out. But sometimes you just need dead silence. And with a significant other around, they don't always get that. They think that you're not talking and you're not actively typing. It means that you're not doing anything important. I could be thinking up the major plot arc for a story and have, my boyfriend or girlfriend walk in and completely distract me, and I lose everything that I've thought up in the last 10 minutes. Because I'm like a bird. It's shiny idea, and I latch onto it and I pay attention to it, and then something else happens and I drop it and it falls into this abyss of I'm so annoyed that I've been distracted that I can't get the idea back. And it sucks. It's a really awful feeling to know that you had it right there and it's just gone. What else is there? Perils of dating a writer. You will inevitably end up in our books or our stories, or, we don't consciously put people we know in there. What I do is I take a lot of personality traits and I combine them, and they end up becoming a character. But, the problem with that is sometimes we don't edit them well enough to make them kind of different from the person that we're writing about. I had a short story which went into one of the zombie survival crew anthologies where I had to go in and I had to rewrite the first half of the book because I realized when I originally wrote the story, I'd written my ex-boyfriend into it, and all of the frustration and anger and annoyance I felt right there at the end had bled into this character to the point where I wanted this character to die in paragraph 3. And I was so annoyed with him, and I went, he's not going to make a good hero, a sympathetic hero, if I want to kill him already. So I went back and I had to rewrite the whole thing to edit out the person who had originally influenced the character so deeply, and I had to cut out nearly everything of my ex that ended up in him. And so we have to be careful with that, and sometimes it's really hard not to do that, especially if you're spending, nearly 24 hours a day with someone, talking to someone, interacting with someone, or just, laying next to them. Some of their personality sinks into our brain, and we adopt it in a way that we're not aware of it. Speech patterns that we use for characters, physical preferences for the heroes or heroines in the book. So it's tough, and if you can't handle seeing a very raw, unpretty version of yourself on the page once we're done writing something, you're not going to last very long. We can only do so much with editing unless we do what I had to do, which was go back and completely rewrite a character. And once we do that, the changes we make to a character at the beginning of something have to carry through the whole thing. And so, in essence, we have to rewrite the entire piece just to spare your feelings. Or do what I had to do and, make a character not killable on, sentence 2. I had another major point I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember what it is right now. Let me think. Dating a writer. Did clothing and silence and bleeding under the page. Those are the really major ones that you have to deal with. Other than that, there's the really wonky mood swings, and unless you're with a writer who feels open to share what they're working on with you. Some don't. Some like to keep it very secret, and I'm one of those. I don't like to talk about what I'm working on unless I need to vocalize something to work through it. So you never know why our moods are the way they are. We feel things a tad differently than others, deeper to an extent, because we have to be able to take those emotions and describe them on the page in order for readers who may not have ever, dealt with the loss of a loved one, or, a bad breakup, or just, a lot of negative emotions. We have to sift through them and explain them in a way that everyone who picks up our book, not just those who are kind of broken souls or whatever, can understand what the characters are going through. And the same thing for describing really physically painful stuff. And I do a lot of physical pain stuff in my books because I know what it is to hurt, and hurt badly, because of my sciatica and a lot of other health issues I have. So, physical pain plays a big part, but it takes so much out of you trying to dredge up all of that emotional and physical pain to put on the page. And it really affects your mood after a while. And especially with writing Enslaved, there's this huge couple of chapters where the main characters are in a lot of both kinds of pain. And I'm trying to say this without giving away spoilers, can you tell? And while writing that section, I was the most miserable bitch on the face of the earth, and I was so glad that my family, my mother and my nephew who live with me, could understand that this was not reflecting on them or anything they had done, but it was just, work emotion bleeding over into everything happening around me, because I spend so much of my time, especially at that point, trying to meet my deadline. I was spending 12 hours a day writing. So it was really hard to get through that section and try to remind myself not to snap at my family and stuff like that. And they would do little things like, make me tea or bring me a snack or something that would just help kind of even me out for a little while so that I could keep going, or just not snap at them for no reason. They are honestly some of the bravest people on earth to be living with me, especially when I get to midway through a project where, essentially all hell breaks loose in the book and in my life, as I rush to try to get the ideas out before my brain lets go of them. Even with writing a plot outline like I usually do for big projects, sometimes the feelings slip through your fingers quicker than you can get them down on paper or Word document, whatever. I think that's about it, and I've talked for a really long time and really quickly. I'm sorry. I've been kind of bottling things up lately, especially with being on vacation. I've been trying to focus on some of the more positive stuff, and today kind of blew up. I'm recording this on the 4th. It probably won't be posted until the 8th or 9th, but I was writing down the first couple of scenes for the plot outline for In Too Deep, which is the prequel to Be Ours Forever. And while that isn't hitting, deep emotional parts right now, I was using background noise to kind of keep myself focused, and I happened to pick up the last season the newest season of Mad Men on Netflix to listen to, and it got to one particular episode, and the people who are fans of the show will know what episode this was, and it was really horrific and gut-wrenching, and at the same moment this stuff was happening on the show that I was listening to while I was transcribing my notes from when I was on vacation. I did do some work, and I wrote down the first 3 chapters, I wrote down 3 chapters, not the first chapter, because that was already done, but you know what I mean. But while I was doing all this, I happened to hop over to Twitter and saw that, there have been a couple of notable deaths today too, and just when it all kind of collided in my head, I had a really bad hour or so where I was just like, I don't know if I can get through this, and and it's things like that make living with a writer and dating a writer really hard to understand, because I didn't know any of the people who died personally. The character who had a mishap on Mad Men, I, wasn't particularly, connected to, because it's a show I watch when I'm, just trying to keep my brain occupied in one section while I'm doing mindless copying, writing work. But it all just kind of combined in this weird whirlwind that sucked me down into this pit of depression. And after, the stress of 10 days of vacation and then coming home, and for the last 4 days trying to make myself work, and today's been the first day that I've really done any significant work, it just, it made part of today suck, and it made me really just ranty and bitchy, and I was like, I have to let this out somehow. So this is how you're going to end up with a probably 20-minute podcast of me just word vomiting all over you guys, and I apologize for that. I meant for this whole podcast to be a little cheerier and funnier, but I kind of just peed on that, and I'm sorry. Anyway, but like I said, I am working on In Too Deep, getting some really nice stuff, nice interaction between Jarlin and Rich, Rich is one of the main characters in Be Ours Forever, so you get to see a lot of Rich before he makes his deal with Nico and Brenda. and a lot of Megan, who I absolutely love, and I'm so glad that I decided to write this book, because originally I was just kind of leave it hanging there and go on to sequels. But going back the 20 years or so to show when Megan was made has actually been kind of fun. And I'm really glad that I decided early on with the series to make it local to where I live, because doing the research on going back would have been a pain in the butt if I could not lean out the door and go, "Hey Mom, was there a Denny's in 92 in Fresno?" And she can go, "Well, yeah, Renee," and like I'm an idiot, but I was all of 8. And at that point, we weren't living in Fresno. We were living in the mountains north of here. So anything that would have subconsciously seeped in didn't, because my grandpa didn't like to eat at chains like Denny's when I was little, and he'd take me out to dinner. So, it's just things that I can't quite feel in, but I can use the people around me to do. And it makes it so much easier, because with this book, with the plot line that magically appeared in my head one day, which I'm almost forgetting, but not, because it's going to be awesome. But it's really complicated, and if I can use, shortcuts to get around the location issues, I'm going to, because I could not imagine not only doing the location research that I would have to do normally on a place, but the other research I need to do with Megan's job and stuff like that. So it's going to keep me pretty busy from now until well into the summer. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to finish it. I haven't set a deadline for myself yet. And I'm not going to even try to say one on here, because I'll just be shooting myself in the foot if anyone hears this and then tries to hold me to it. It's done when it's done. And then right after that, I'll start the next of the in-between novels, which will be, I don't even know who yet. I have a vague idea on that one, but like I said before, I said this was going to be about work. What the hell did I do? Anyway, so, the first part of this was basically don't date a writer unless you're got your big boy and big girl pants pulled firmly up and can handle the roller coaster that is our emotions and just some of the quirks that we do. Especially if you're a really clean person. I'm looking around my bedroom right now, and it is covered in piles of clean laundry that need to be put away and bags that need to be unpacked still. And because I got home and I jumped straight into work after vacation, and the only reason that there's clean laundry is because my mother, commandeered what I had that was dirty and washed it for me. That way I'd have clothes to take the kid to and from school this week. So we need we don't need so much significant other as we need a keeper at some points. It is really nice to have someone there to balance us out emotionally, but at one point or another, you're going to have to remind us to eat. Make sure that we're drinking enough water instead of just, drinking our daily water equivalent in coffee or tea. Which is really not healthy. Don't do it. I've caught myself trying to do it a lot lately, and I've been doing days where I don't drink any caffeine and drink just water. Writers, beware. Dehydration is a scary thing, even though you don't feel it because you're sitting at your desk all the time. Some of the aches and pains you feel are actually dehydration, especially if you're feeling a lot of tension in your shoulders and stuff. It's not good, just so you know. And even in the colder months, you still need to drink your 8 glasses of water. It is not a myth. You really do need that much water in order to survive. But yeah, so we need more of a keeper than a significant other at times. And it isn't always that lopsided where you become almost a parent to the writer or creative type you're dating, but you just need to understand that a lot of the time we're not here. I can be walking down the street on my way to go get my kid from school, or my nephew from school, and barely notice the cars and the people around me because my brain is back in my office thinking about the scene that I'm working on and not focused on, getting to where I need to go. I'm still somewhat aware of the motion around me, so I'm not going to get run over by a car or anything, but it's not an active awareness. It's more of muscle memory to remember to look for cars and get out of the way if people are riding bicycles or skateboards past. But for the most part, my brain's in freaking La La Land, whatever universe I've created and been working in for the previous 4 hours before I have to go anywhere outside. And, it's just, we're not flighty, we're not dingbats, even though I am somewhat, because, I'm actually a natural blonde, but it's just, creating a universe to write in consumes so much of our brain, so much of our thought process, because you look at the world and you take everything for granted. When you write a world, you have to describe everything from the clouds in the sky to the dirt below their feet in some way or another. And it's creates kind of a God complex where you're so concerned over everything that when something intrudes, you get angry about it. And, I almost understand how the God of the Old Testament, as he's written in the Bible, I'm not a religious person, by the way, but if there were a God, I could fully see him getting pissed off at his creations for not doing what he told them to and going, you know what, screw it, rocks fall, everyone dies, or in this case, flood comes, everyone dies, except for, these specific people and creatures. Everything else, done. And it's kind of like, taking a chapter out of a book because the characters aren't doing what you need them to in that specific point, and that it doesn't go. Writers, don't throw your stuff away. It doesn't go in the trash pile, it just goes elsewhere. So you can't see it right now, and you can think about it later, and maybe it'll end up in a sequel, or it'll just end up being another story, or whatever. It could end up being something else, or it could just sit there in your desktop thingy-majig. I can't think anymore. Or it could just sit there in your hard drive, that's what I was trying to say, for another 10 years or whatever. But writing creates this strange, I don't want to say inflated ego, but it does strange things to your ego when you are completely in control of everything that happens in this universe. And it does make you a god or goddess of whatever you're working on. And I joke with my best friend, who is also a writer, that, we are gods, and when something goes wrong, it's just like, gotta smash and, fix it, or it's gotta go away. I think that's all, and now I've talked for nearly half an hour at you guys, and my throat is so dry. I'm pretty sure you could have heard that from like 10 minutes in. But, I'm gonna go now. I will talk to you guys again probably next week if I happen to remember. I think I'm going to try and read chapter 1 of BR's Forever for you guys. If not, then I'll figure out something equally kind of cool. But that's it for this week. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. I will see you around.